Hey guys, what's going on? Hermdo back with you. And today I found this. It's I don't know if this, I think this is a TikTok, obviously. Obviously, that's what it is. But this woman is a teacher and she's talking about kind of the state of education and where her students are at. I know this has kind of been a hot button issue for a while now. You hear a lot about this kind of thing. What's going on in schools, how students are behaving, some of the detrimental things that this younger generation is exhibiting, and it's pretty stark. It's pretty serious stuff. But let's get into it.
I think that you guys don't know what's going on in education right now. That's fine. Like, how could you know unless you were working in it? But I think that I think you need to know. So here is exactly what it's like right now working in public education. First of all, the kids have no ability to be bored whatsoever.
That's the thing. Not to cut her off, but I'll just say a quick aside. When's the last time you were bored? When's the last time you didn't have a screen in front of your face entertaining you at some point? I mean, maybe were you on a flight, maybe? Were you sitting in a conference, maybe? When's the last time, I mean, like, but you like out and about, like outside of like a work environment, like when's the last time like you were sitting at home bored? I don't know. That's the thing. I think about that myself. Like, I got all these distractions and whatnot, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I sound like a dick, but at the same time, it's just like you got to think of yourself. Like, how much stimulation do I engage with every single day? But let's get more into this video.
They live on their phones and they're just fed a constant stream of dopamine from the minute their eyes wake up in the morning until they go to sleep at night. Because they're in a constant state of dopamine withdrawal at school, they behave like addicts. They're super emotional, like the smallest thing sets them off. And when you are standing in front of them trying to teach, they're vacant. They have no ability to tune in if your communication isn't packaged in short little clips or if it doesn't have like bright flashing lights. That's actually the way harder part for me than just the outright behaviors, is just being up at the front, talking to a group of kids who have their eyes open, they're looking at me, but they're not there. They're not there. And they have a level of apathy that I've never seen before in my whole career. Punishments don't work because they don't care about them. They don't care about grades. They don't care about college. It's like you are interacting with them briefly in between hits of the internet.
That's the thing. I mean, internet, we all say like evils of the internet, and some of that's overblown, I feel, but this real attitude, I think a lot of this like doomerism from like millennials and like older Gen Z, a lot of that attitude, we're just like, we're screwed, we're fucked, nothing we do matters, we don't have futures, everything's been stolen from us. Maybe it's bleeding over into like the younger generations, like the younger Gen Z, the Gen Alphas. Most of them are in high school right now. A lot of them are in high school, grade school, even elementary school. But just like this attitude is so pervasive, and I think most people just don't seem to give a shit anymore, and that can be really dangerous because we're going to need more doctors and lawyers and scientists in the next 10 to 20 years, and if American students are falling behind this far, what are we going to do? Are we just going to have to keep importing talent? I don't know. That's the thing. You got to question, you know, what are we going to do as Americans when like our entire professional class or the people we depend, like when we have the professional classes are hollowed out because no students give a shit anymore,
Which is their real life. I've seen some TikToks recently where teachers are getting a lot of hate, like for not adapting to the kids or punishing them or whatever. And I just gotta say, like, I can tell you with absolute certainty, it is not the teacher's fault. It might be the parents' fault. It might be our capitalistic society's fault, but it is not the teacher's fault.
that's the question you got to ask yourself. Like, what's causing this kind of thing? Is it the parents? Is it our culture? Capitalism? Perhaps. Like the society. You hear a lot about a lot of young kids. They want to be like influencers. They don't want to be stuck in a 9 to 5. All these kids, they don't want to be stuck in a classroom. They don't want to be stuck at school. They want to be out doing stuff. They want to be out making money, grinding, hustling, or being e-celebrities or influencers or shit like that. And it's so pervasive, this idea, I mean, in America, I mean, maybe it's part of like this capitalist consumerist society. It's just like anybody thinks they can be a celebrity and make tons of money doing this kind of shit. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I think a lot of these kids are in for a rude awakening. You see this stuff on TikTok. Everyone's like, I make $20,000 a month making AI images on TikTok, and kids think they can do that kind of shit. It's bad, man. But we had some reaction to it. Sarah, don't know how to pronounce that. But anyways, things I've heard from people I know who are teachers: parents drop their kids off late and say it's just when they could get going. Kids text their parents drink orders, and their parents deliver them to the school secretary during the day. Kids can't even sit through movies. These teachers' admin range in age from their 20s to their 50s and work in elementary, middle, and high schools. The oldest teachers say it's never been this bad. There are absolutely no attention spans left, parents included. Yeah, there's a lot of hate for teachers. There's a lot of right-wing hate for teachers. I think a lot of guys just got like disciplined when they were like in grade school and they just never got over it. But there's a lot of hatred for these like professional classes from the right. There's this big thing. All these teachers want to turn their kids woke and gay and all that kind of shit like that. But I mean, we're like it totally misses the point of like, hey, we have a whole generation that literally needs electronic stimulation 24/7, and they're so apathetic about their futures that we're not going to be able to like sustain big swaths of our civilization because everybody's going to be like so checked out or just it's a big mess. It's a big mess, But get that iPad out of your baby's hands and parent like it's literally any time before 2010. There's always someone who's going to be like, people always complain about the younger generation. This is about the parents sticking an algorithm and cheap YouTube crap in their kids' faces from birth and looking at their own phones while this happens. People need to be able to self-regulate. People need to be able to be bored and to cope with boredom. Michael and I talk about this all the time. I was once an only child with 13 TV channels, no internet, and a dream. And in like 10 years, my iPhone has ruined my brain. Yep. This stuff's getting cooked. People are getting their brains cooked in real time. I talk about this kind of shit. But Worm Girl says, my sister and all her friends would DoorDash food to school for lunch and go pick it up at the reception, even though they were allowed to leave campus. It's absolutely insane. Also, just like not going to school because they don't feel like it, and no repercussions for that. Oh my god, oh my god. My high school is an open campus downtown next to a million fast food places, and they didn't even see people bring fast food orders from lunch into class. Jesus Christ. The kids I teach are exactly the same, and the girl I tutor regularly missed school because she just doesn't want to go. That was one thing my parents like forced on me. It's like, hey, you're going to school. You're not taking any days off. That's one thing I think my dad kind of regretted. He told me after I graduated high school, was like, I should have taken you kids out of school more often, what I mean? But I was always at school unless I was sick or there was something else going on. But that's the thing, this compulsory education. And there are some aspects of the education system we can criticize. I don't want to say like teachers deserve all the blame. I don't think they do. There's some shitty teachers out there. There's a lot of shitty admins too, and a lot of these people it's just like the teachers are stuck between the admins and the parents, and there's like no support for them whatsoever, and it's an absolute mess. But there's a lot of stuff, some reaction on Reddit. The public needs to know the ugly truth. Students are significantly behind. I teach at a high school, age range 15 to 18 years old. I've seen students who can't do the following: read at grade level, write a complete sentence, spell simple words, add or subtract double digits, know their multiplication tables, round, graph, understand the concept of a negative, understand percentage, and it goes on and on. English at the university decline each year has been terrifying. My students don't read. They expect to be able to submit assignments more than once. They were shocked at essay grades. That's what they could resubmit for higher grades. I told them also no, and they were very surprised. 12 K-12 teachers who have gone through unfair admin demanding for higher grades, who have suffered parents screaming and yelling at them because their kids didn't perform well on an exam. I'm sorry. But we have some TikToks here. A lot of people are sounding off about this. This one's getting quite a bit of attention here.
Gen Z teachers are talking about the poor behavior of Gen Alpha students, and some of y'all are finally starting to believe us when it comes to how much we've missed the mark on raising these kids right. Because I have gray in my hair and I'm 36 years old, people tend to tune me out as soon as I open my mouth when I start talking about these issues we're seeing in the classroom with our kids these days. So before I go on, why don't we review some of the evidence from some of the other creators on this app who might be a little bit more of a relatable age.
This is my folder of crying teachers, and they are confused and frightened by the behavior of Gen Alpha. They're saying Gen Alpha is defiant, aggressive, disrespectful, and rude.
Having to teach and work with you guys as children has been the most traumatic experience of my life. They don't respect any authority. You ask them, can you stand in your designated spot? They're telling you no and shut up. They're throwing things at each other. They're throwing things at other people, other classmates. You say, can everybody sit in their spot? I don't want to. I'm not doing that. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're not my mom.
Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, but these kids are... I'm going to just say this. I teach 7th grade. They are still performing on the 4th grade level.
I'm a middle school teacher. I'm also 22 years old. And I will tell you, by far, we are doomed. Like, these kids do not care. Like, I have kids, all they want to do all day long is get high. Like,
I need to ask millennials, why are your kids so awful and more...
Well, that's the big thing with like millennial parents and stuff like that. A lot of people, oh God, there's so many things about my generation. First it was the millennial burger stuff. Now it's the millennial parenting, Jesus Christ. But, you know, my generation missed the mark and all that stuff. And it's not entirely our fault. Like, I'll still cape for millennials, or I'll still have like I'll still make excuses for my generation to a certain degree. But I hear a lot of these stories. I see a lot of this kind of shit. You know, a lot of my buddies, they're having kids right now. A lot of millennials I know, they're having kids late. They're having kids like their late 30s. I don't know how that's all going to turn out to be, but yeah, as far as like instilling like behavioral like restrictions or discipline or any kind of thing like that, millennials seem to miss the mark. I hear these stories all the time about like Gen Alpha kids, you know, the kids of millennials. You know, it's bad. It's really bad, and that's a big indictment on my generation. Just like, I mean, maybe it's like some aversion. I think like millennials were so scared to like raise their kids like the boomers raised us, that they just went against the grain, and all this like typical traditional knowledge about child raising that essentially worked for generations and generations just went out the window, and now we're just doing whatever the fuck we want. Just put an iPad in front of your kid's face. Just let them do whatever they want. Let them express themselves however they want, no matter how destructive or antisocial it is. And it just turns into a big mess. But let's get a little more into this.
More importantly, why do you think it's so funny? Your kids cannot read. They cannot write. They are ill-mannered.
I've been trying to sound the alarm about Gen Alpha students and their poor behavior in their classrooms, as well as their literacy problems, since May of last year. But because of my age and how I look, every time I make a video about these topics, I'll get people that have never worked with kids or have never spent a day in the classroom as an educator give me lines like, well, you're just old and jaded. If you don't like it and you can't handle it, quit and find another job. Kids have always been like this. Nothing's new in 2023. And then we've got the droves of people that are trying to blame it on COVID and trying to blame it on the lockdown. Us not having any...
I think that does have a certain aspect of it. A lot of kids got their lives put on hold. A lot of kids missed their high school graduation. A lot of kids, you know, they essentially were forced into remote learning. A lot of people were very upset by that. A lot of young kids really got set back by the pandemic. I wouldn't dismiss it offhand. Not that I'm saying she's not making a good point here and there, but if I had to push back a little bit, I just say that the pandemic did have a very pronounced effect on this, and it might have, it's clearly having downstream effects. I can't really argue that.
Sympathy or empathy for students with special needs, even though I never talk about those types of students. And I'm always talking about general population students, and the fact that this is an overarching problem with every single kid, even the high achievers, even the ones that don't need IEPs, even the ones that are highly socialized and have a lot of resources coming from home. Teachers that have been in this for 1, 2, 3 years are seeing it, and they are talking about it. Teachers that are veterans, like me, that have been in the classroom for over a decade or 2 or 3 or nearing retirement, are also saying the same thing. Your children are missing the mark on discipline. They're missing the mark on education standards. They're missing the mark on literacy. They're missing the mark on socialization. We can blame it on COVID. We can blame it on iPads raising our kids. We can blame it on the fact that kids don't socialize with each other enough. We can blame it on the economy and the fact that parents don't have time to help their kids learn how to read, or don't have time to take their kids to the park anymore. We can blame it on all of those things, or we can blame it on none of those things. But it sounds like we're starting to get into a consensus here amongst educators that we have a real problem. And some of y'all need to stop making excuses.
I understand, like, there's a lot of factors to this. There's a lot of factors to this. People ask, like, what's making the kids stupid? Is it the government? Is it the parents? Is it whatever? I mean, maybe the teachers do shoulder some of the blame, but in some regards, there are bad teachers out there, no doubt. But just, I can't blame the entire profession. There's definitely legitimately like a problem with these young kids, and it's just something we can't ignore or dismiss. You know, I have empathy for these people. I really do. I hear horror stories like this all the time. I see teachers, like over the last few years, I've seen videos like teachers like crying, telling stories about how they're like throwing up on Sunday night because they know Monday morning they're gonna have to go through hell at these schools with these god awful kids, and it's just like, you know, but it's society is overall, like our society, you know, like people are broke now. Parents are working multiple jobs right now. They don't have time to spend around their kids. Their kids are getting raised by God knows who. There's no system in place to really support parents. To have some empathy for parents, yeah, there's some shitty parents out there. But in this climate, you know, it's just like you kind of wonder, why the fuck are you even having kids? If you can't afford to take care of yourself, I hear stories all the time. People in like tens of thousands of dollars in debt, like six figures of debt, squeezing out more kids. People dependent on welfare, squeezing out more kids. What the hell is going to happen? We just keep, I know, like population, like the birth rates have declined slightly. I know there's a whole nother thing, but you know, we have like a whole like generation and a half of kids, like almost two generations of kids that just are not prepared for the world. And it's really, really a serious problem. It's one of those things that I kind of think about and I really worry about going forward. Like, what's the future going to be like? But check out a couple other things. This one has some things to say.
Okay, Zaire, how do you spell BMW?
B-E-Y.
How do we solve for X? Chosen.
You're going to take the square root of Kiat minus Riz, and then you're going to multiply by... Miss Taylor, I need help.
Sure, what question are you... I know you did not just blow blue raspberry shoelace in my face. Hand it over.
Put it away.
No.
Put it away.
Amiri, can you read the sentence on the board, please?
The dog, I don't even know what that means for real. Like, what does that even say?
Amiri, you're a 22-year-old senior. Something has to give. Okay, Bella, can you tell us what your project is about?
My presentation is on the history of the modern-day Civil War.
Amazing choice.
For 7 years, the Barbs and Barty gang have...
Sit down. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me.
It's not even true. Yes, it is. I was never going to stop like this.
If you see me and you trying to see what's up.
See?
Okay, Jeremiah, this might be a trick question. What is the shape of that circle?
It's a rectangle.
Jeremiah, I just gave it to you.
It's funny. This is funny, but at the same time, this TikTok is funny, but at the same time, it's like, oh shit, you know, this is something we definitely should be taking seriously. It is not good, not good. Oh god. Let's watch one more TikTok.
This is Miss Chella.
Hey, yeah, this is Mr. Lindsay over at the middle school. Yeah, I understand that some of my students are going to be visiting the high school today, and they can be a little bit much. So I just wanted to call you and give you a heads up, prepare you a little bit.
Don't worry, Mr. Lindsay. I'm like one of the cooler, younger teachers here on campus, so these Gen Z kids don't scare me. I even have like a whole series about it, so I'm totally down with all of like the Gen Z slang. Like, I know the vibes. Bet.
Yeah, no, I don't think you understand. These kids are, how do you say it, built different.
I work with Gen Z people, and I'm an older millennial, and like some days, you know, it's just one of those things, you kind of mess with them a little bit, but it's just like, if they make a mistake or something, I just go, what the Sigma? This is not Skibbity Riz. And they cringe so hard. I start talking about Giat. I start saying things are bussin', and they get really, really angry. It's very, very funny because I'm like the old man there. I'm older than everybody there by like 15 years. It's like me and my boss, we're the older millennials. We're both 40, and everybody else is young. They're like mid-20s, and we're always joking around. We're still like dabbing. You know, just trying to be lighthearted about this, but it's funny because Gen Z just does not like that shit.
Yeah, and they don't call them Gen Z anymore. They call them Gen Alpha, and they... Yeah! Yeah, Skibbity toilet. Yeah. Miss Chella, you've been working on your mewing?
What?
Your mewing? This class is about to be the best, bro.
What?
Don't be an op, Miss Chella. Don't be an op. What's up, chat? W in the chat for me.
This is like one of those things like, okay, you're basically making fun of the younger generations, but it's a little bit lighthearted, a little bit funny. I thought it'd end with like a maybe funnier one, but it's just, It's a thing we should take seriously. We can still laugh and make jokes about this shit. Talk about the generational divide. You know, it's part of the millennial thing. I talk about like how millennials aren't really cool anymore, and how like we're trying to like relive our childhoods in some way. But you know, this kind of stuff, like the generational gap, you're just like you can't cope with it as a millennial. You're just like you want to still be cool because you remember like back in the '90s, everybody was catering to your tastes. Now it's like you're just an old fuck that you know no one gives a shit about anymore. But it's still funny. You know, you got to be able to have a little bit of fun with it, honestly.
Trella, W in the shot, bruh, 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 bruh. It's so preppy in here. Miss Trella, you are the preppiest, bruh. Tried to warn her.
Okay, I thought we'd end on a little bit of a funny note there, but I'm gonna wrap things up. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any thoughts, leave them down below. Are you a teacher? I'd love to hear from you if you got something to say about this kind of stuff. Are you Gen Alpha? Do you think I'm being unfair? Are you a parent? You think I'm being a dick? You know, and I don't want to. I think a lot of people shoulder the blame here. There's a lot of aspects of our like culture and our society that you know can be blamed, but you know, there's certain people in and around the system. I don't think they're blameless at all, but you know. So some people deserve more blame than others. That's all I'll say about this. But it's a serious problem. Jokes aside and laughing aside, this is a serious problem that our society needs to deal with because in the future, this could lead to real severe issues. But yep, that's all I got to say about it. Like and subscribe if you want to support my channel. Visit my Cash App link. Leave a comment down below, all that good shit, and I will talk to you guys later.
Ryan Little.